Welcome back to Kabiga's Movie Reviews. Today we're looking at The Mauritanian, a 2021 film directed by Kevin MacDonald, starring Jodie Foster, Tahar Rahim, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Zachary Levy, among others. A defense attorney, her associate, and a military prosecutor uncover a far-reaching conspiracy while investigating the case of a suspected 9/11 terrorist imprisoned at Guantanamo Bay for 6 years. What they uncover will rock the very foundations of the American Constitution. So basically, this film claims to be a true story rather than simply based on a true story, which I felt was a really bold claim. But as I went on, I thought, okay, let's go with this. Let's see where this goes. Let's see if they can back up that claim. And boy, did they. Now, to start on a simpler note, it's a story of a prosecutor or a defense attorney trying to fight both sides of this case for this guy who's detained at Guantanamo Bay. What intrigued me about this movie was the fact that I remember 9/11, I remember where I was when that happened, and I also remember the subsequent stories that came out years later about detainees at Guantanamo Bay. So when I saw this film, I thought, let's give it a go. You know, the stories are well documented, or should I say, well alleged. I think I'll leave it up to the viewer to make up their own mind whether it happened or not, but I think we all know that chances are it did. And my opinion is that, yeah, it did. Anyway, back to the story. So this guy is imprisoned at Guantanamo Bay for years, 6 years at the beginning of this film, and he's imprisoned there without charge or without a jury or any kind of reason. He's just held there for years and years, and he is submitted to torture, isolation, and all sorts of things go on. Basically, this film is about a defense attorney who chooses to take on his case. Not because she necessarily believes that he's innocent, as he claims, but because she feels it's really unfair that these guys are being held without due process, without even being charged with a crime. They're just being held because of their religious beliefs, they're Muslims, or because of where they come from, or because of associations and suspicions, which in her mind, and I'm inclined to agree with her, isn't really sufficient grounds to imprison somebody for years and years. So she goes to go see him and try and get his story out and try and get his side of the story. And as he's telling her the story, the aspect ratio of the movie changes whenever she's reading his story. Whenever we're being told his story from his perspective, the aspect ratio goes to like a square on the film, and this makes it actually easier to follow the narrative. So when it's widescreen, it's what's happening. When it's a square aspect ratio, it's what happened. So that for me in this film, from a viewer's point of view, made it easier just to kind of follow what was going on. And that always helps, because this film, it's a courtroom drama / thriller / true story, so it kind of, the pacing is a little slow to start with. It doesn't have the gravitas of some other courtroom dramas like A Few Good Men, which also is set in Guantanamo Bay. However, I must stress, A Few Good Men is a fiction. This is allegedly a true story. So very different, but same kind of theme, same kind of settings. This doesn't have the gravitas of that. However, because of who's in it, this film has a really great cast. The performances of the cast are absolutely solid. The guy who plays the main character, Tahar Rahim, is outstanding, and if it's to be believed what he went through for the filming of this, particularly the graphic torture scenes that I'll come on to in a minute, he requested actually being waterboarded, actually being submerged and treated in the way that these detainees were allegedly treated, and it just makes it a more visceral experience. And I suppose it helped him in his performance, because it definitely shows this guy is really good in it. And I was surprised actually by Zachary Levy. I don't have much experience of him, but I've seen him previously in Shazam, and he was really entertaining in that. But this character he plays in this movie is so different, and he's really, really good. And before you say anything in the comments, I do know that he did appear in the Thor movies as Vandril, I believe. So yeah, I'm really impressed by the cast. Jodie Foster is amazing, as she always is. That woman can act. She is superb. And Benedict Cumberbatch. Now, he does have an American accent in this, though it's not as disturbing as the Stephen Strange one that he has in the Marvel movies. And by that, what I mean is, when I first watched him as Doctor Strange, the fact that he had an American accent kind of threw me, because I know he's a British actor. I'm used to him in Sherlock. I saw him in Khan, where he's got kind of an English kind of accent, and he's an Englishman. So to have him as a straight up American accent was a little unsettling. However, maybe I've just got used to it. Maybe he's got better. Who knows? In this film, it isn't as off-putting, distracting, should I say. He's really good in this, as he is in everything that I've ever seen him in. He is another superb actor. So it's really not a surprise that the performances of the cast are so solid, considering who the cast are. It's just amazing. Now, the next point I want to talk to is what one publication called the 10 minutes that makes the Mauritanian. Okay, there is a 10-minute montage scene that is basically the torture scene, and it is outstanding. It's really closely filmed. It's really, you feel like you're in there, and because the waterboarding is real, a lot of the other torture methods they use are real. All the things that guy went through, it is visceral, and it is just really, really well done. It doesn't hold back, and it doesn't sugarcoat America's post 9/11 further. It paints the events of what happened at Guantanamo Bay as exactly what they were, and that's brutal and abhorrent, and allegedly they still go on to this day. So I hope that ends soon, because yeah, torture, this film shows that torture is actually not effective at getting justice, and I think that's what people, particularly the victims of 9/11, wanted, was justice. And there's a very big difference between justice and revenge. Two very, very different things. Now, this movie deserves to be watched out of sheer admiration for everyone who had a hand in making it, and I mean the people that actually went through the events of Guantanamo Bay, all the way down to the researchers, the writers, and the actors, and the cinematographer, the director, everybody who had a hand in making this film, no matter how small, out of respect for them and what they did and went through to make this movie. It should be watched just for that. And right at the end, there is, very similar to Black Klansman, there is actually real life footage of the events that are alluded to in the movie, or events that follow what happened in the movie. So that's really endearing, and it's a really treat to see. I don't want to spoil it at all, so I'm not going to go on about that too much, but the actual real life footage that comes at the end of the movie is a nice little bit for you to watch. So for me, in conclusion, I'm going to score this as 7 out of 10, because it does start off a little slow and a little predictable and a little bit, like Law and Order sort of thing that you would see on the telly. but then it picks up in the second and third acts, and it does get better. So for me, it's not quite a superb stellar movie. 7 out of 10's better than average, I would say. My recommendation to buy, watch or avoid. This movie is not a buy movie, it's a watch it. It's available on Amazon Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime customer, you can watch it for free, so I recommend that you do, because it is worth it. It is interesting, and it quite possibly won't tell you anything that you don't already know or that hasn't already been reported in the press, but it is definitely worth a watch. So 7 out of 10, watch it.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe to see all future content.